Welcome to the show. Hello to your mother, to your father, and especially to your sister. Make sure to tell her I said hi because you are now tuned into a brand spanking new Monday Night Live. That's right. AKA the Hangout Stream, AKA the Chill Stream, baby. All fired up. Ready to have some fun for August 14th, 2023. Brought to you by you know who. Yours truly, the man. Broadcasting from behind the curtain. You know who I am. Because if you don't know by now, you can visit www.livefreeliverich.com or simply Google his name and you can find out. What's up, folks? How we doing? Tonight, I have a new indie author breakdown to share, some indie author folly to discuss, and an indie author's book review to read. Make that times two, because I had another one just in earlier, not but maybe 10 minutes ago. Okay, so we're going to get to that one as well. We got an editorial, so that's one editorial and a short form review to get to. I'll also be checking out a writing related video that focuses on the concept of literary theme. But, of course, before I get to all that, first things first. I like to take this time, slide right inside my first segment of the night, where I like to shine a spotlight on some books. That's right. That are currently available or coming soon to an online store near you. Yes, it's true. Hey, DA. What's up, my man? Who do we got first tonight? From Gail Notestein. I think we've covered a book from this series before. It's a children's series. It says, thank you for the writer's lift. I just finished book 6. Wow, book 6 in the Molly and Grain series. All That Glitters. The release date is April 25th, 2023. Already available. Let's see what we have tonight. What is this? Tonight, Hounds Abound, a Molly and Grain storybook. This is number 5. The Adventures of Molly and Grain by Gail Notestein. Sleepy? What time zone are you in? This is prime time for me. This is probably when I'm most awake. I'm a night owl. Hey, Rainer. Ah, Florida, huh? I've contemplated moving to Florida, but, well, there's 2 states that I've contemplated moving to. One is North Carolina, and the other is Florida. Florida, I don't know, being from Maine, born and raised, I don't think I would be able to acclimate, let's just say, to the Florida climate. Probably not. Probably not. I would probably like there is probably a lot of things that I would like about Florida, but the weather would probably not be one of those things, at least for the majority of the year. I'm sure there's a time of the year where the weather is really nice, but For the vast majority of the year, I'd probably be miserable. It'd probably be too hot for my liking. North Carolina, I heard, is a temperate state and not bad. All right, there is the cover. Let's see what's going on with Hounds Abound. When Molly's family gets sent to New Mexico, I'm going to talk about states here. When Molly's family gets sent to New Mexico to cover the Alien Festival, Molly and Grain are exposed to a whole new world. Molly and her family get to experience I believe that's how you pronounce that, with more hounds than they have ever seen in one place. But not everything is as it seems, as one family seems to be determined to ruin it all for everyone. Join Molly and Grain as they see for themselves that bullies and thieves never prosper. Well, so long as they stay in New Mexico and they don't travel to actual Mexico, that might hold true. Targeted age 7 to 13 years, 138 pages of children's dog books, children's animal action and adventure. It's good old Molly and Grain. Sounds cute. I'll give it that much. Let's see who's up next here. No. From Lily Rose. Lily Rose writes in to say, just launched. Immerse yourself in the captivating YA novel, Because of Us. Experience forbidden love, family secrets. Uh-oh. Where are we going with this one? And small town drama as Violet and Lucas face their parents' past. Will love prevail? Find out now. Uh-oh. We got female author, forbidden love, family secrets. I have a feeling I know where this one's going. Because of Us. Their future hinges on our past. By Nicole Valle-Prenevost. Rainer. Listen, I don't want to assume, right? I've got a feeling, let's just say. I got a feeling. I could be wrong. I don't want to, am I starting to sound like I'm jaded with all this YA business and stuff? Forbidden love. I hope not. I want to think that YAs can still be innocent at their core, Let's see what's going on. All right. Quite a lengthy blurb here. 15-year-old Violet is uprooted from her life in Naperville, Illinois, when her mother Jody accepts a promotion in her hometown of Stewartson, Wisconsin. The small town, built on the legacy of the Stewart family, founders of the first self-serve grocery chain, proudly wears its history on its sleeve. With Jody working at the college founded by William Stewart and her husband Emmett happily settling in, it seems like the perfect fresh start. As Violet begins attending the prestigious private local high school, she forms an unexpected friendship with Lucas Stewart, a descendant of the town's founding family. Sparks fly and young love blossoms, but their seemingly perfect relationship is threatened when Jody learns of their romance and a dark secret from her past resurfaces, and the Stewart family is at the center of it. Dun, dun, dun. When a tragic accident rocks the families, Violet and Lucas must navigate a whirlwind of press attention, swirling rumors, and challenges to their love, loyalty, and friendships. As the fallout from their parents' past escalates, a shocking revelation threatens to upend everything they once knew. As Violet and Lucas confront the truth, they must decide what they're willing to sacrifice for love and family. Can they overcome the weight of their parents' history, or will the sins of the past destroy any chance of a future together? Did they find out they're cousins? Because of Us weaves an engrossing tale of love, betrayal, and the power of truth. This unforgettable young adult novel will captivate readers with its richly drawn characters, emotional depth, and the timeless struggle to define one's own destiny. Immerse yourself in the world of Stewartson and discover the secrets that could make or break a love story for the ages. 173 pages of coming-of-age fiction, new adult and college romance. Well, if she's 15, isn't she technically in high school? And they even say in the blurb, prestigious private local high school. So maybe she eventually goes to college. Like maybe it's more of like a saga thing, perhaps. All right. Very good. We'll keep it moving right along here. That was incorrect. But I think you were thinking what I was thinking. Last but not least, we have James Glenn Thompson. Okay, James Glenn Thompson. He writes The Galveston Incident. The Galveston Incident is a thrilling adventure. The search for a missing treasure of Spanish gold drives a Mexican drug cartel. This is with Mexico. That's literally where what I was insinuating with Notestein's book. That's literally what I was insinuating there. I was like, stay in New Mexico. Don't actually go to Mexico. Okay. In terms of crime doesn't pay, the bullies and thieves as far as that goes. So the Mexican drug cartel and other criminals to prey on anyone who might know anything of the treasure. This is The Galveston Incident, a Mr. Spectre mystery by James Glenn Thompson. How you guys doing in the chat? Lurkers in the chat, how you doing? How you doing? Go ahead. You can say hi. No need to be shy. I just like to know who took the time to stop by. Cringe intensifies. I like when the cringe intensifies. If you ain't creating cringe, are you even living? Come on. I feel like life is just one big long cringe fest, you know? Let's enjoy a little cringe, shall we? Of course, I'm not implying this book is cringe, but perhaps the timing of my statements are a bit impeccable, hence the cringe. All right, there's the cover. Definitely looks like an action thriller or suspense thriller type of novel here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they say crime doesn't pay, but, you know, some people beg to differ on that one. It's just, you know, it's an unpopular opinion, let's just say. All right. I mean, I guess there's worse things that you could be paid for, you know, OnlyFans, for instance. Let's see. The Galveston incident. The Galveston incident is a thrilling adventure. What did I say? The Galveston incident is a thrilling adventure that combines mystery, treasure hunting, and action into one unforgettable tale spanning 70 years. The search for a missing treasure of Spanish gold drives a Mexican drug cartel and other criminals to prey on anyone who might know anything of the treasure. But when Professor Lesueur and his students go missing while excavating near the Mexican border, Captain Lesueur sets out on a dangerous journey to uncover the truth about his missing son. With the help of his many friends from 30 years working on the Gulf of Mexico, he soon finds himself at war with the Mexican drug cartel. As all hell breaks loose in South Texas, a Central Texas outlaw joins the fight, and the stakes are raised higher than ever. Will Captain Lesueur and his friends be able to uncover the truth and find the missing treasure, or will the cartel get there first? What about his missing son and his students? Don't miss out on this heart-pumping adventure filled with twists and turns. Order your copy of the Galveston Incident today and get ready to be transported to a world of danger, mystery, and excitement. This is actually book 2 of a 6-book series, a Mr. Spectre mystery. So I'm not sure if maybe each one of the books in this series is kind of a standalone story. I know with a lot of these mystery books, they might revolve around like one character. Think like, you know, like 007 or something like that. You know what I mean? Where it's like each entry is kind of like its own standalone story. However, there might be a little bit of continuity in terms of character development. Anyways, 261 pages of crime, action, and adventure, mystery, action, and adventure. That tickles your fancy. And those are the books for this week, ladies and gentlemen. And I use those terms loosely. If you're watching this on the replay, you can head on over to the community tab. That was nonchalant. You can head on over to the community tab and cast your vote for which one out of those 3 books you thought had the most text appeal. That's right. In other words, which one out of those 3 aforementioned books would you be most likely to pick? And if you'd like to discover more from the independent market, you can head on over to my shorts tab or my playlist tab and open yourself up some mystery packs. Inside each mystery pack, there is a cover card that reveals a book from the independent market that was recognized by the Live Free, Live Rich Network. And inside the description section of each video, there is a link to an editorial written specifically on that book by yours truly. Yeah, definitely not anyone to be messed around with. No. So now let's get into the next segment here. How are you guys doing, by the way? Did you do anything fancy during the week? Did you read any indie books? You guys watching this, whether you're live in the chat right now, we got D.A. Bell. I think Rainer's still hanging around. I'm going to put you guys on the spot. You guys read any indie books this week? Are you currently reading any indie books this week? How about you guys watching this on the replay? Drop me a comment down below. Let me know if you are reading any indie books. I want to know, because this next segment is called The Reader's Review. That's right. The Reader's Review. This is where you guys, if you read indie books, this is where I want to highlight readers who specifically read indie books, who are willing to give indie books the time of day. All right. I want to highlight you guys. Okay. I do this for you guys. All right. And what I'm looking for here is short form book reviews. What's a short form book review? Think of third-party websites, like this could be an Amazon customer review. This could be a Goodreads review, or this could be like a social media post. Think like Book Twitter or Bookstagram, something like that. And this is written form specifically. However, if you run a Booktube channel and you would like to come onto the show and share an experience you had with a particular indie book in person, I may be willing to do that. Just reach out to me via email or direct message, what have you, and we'll see if we can make that happen. And another way is for you authors, you indie authors out there, if you want to recognize somebody who took the time to read one of your books and went above and beyond and wrote a review for one of your books, by all means, you can share one of those reviews with me, and I'll be happy to read it live on the air. And that's precisely what we have here, just in tonight from the Discord server. I'm going to be checking out a 5-star review. Yeah, you heard that right. A 5-star review of Agao Chan's Lime's Fable. And this is a review that is written by A Look Inside, which I believe is it's a blog. So this comes from Goodreads, but this comes from a Goodreads user who also happens to have a blog, their own blog and podcast that I believe focuses on indie books, which is pretty cool. I'd like to see more of that, actually. You know, because say what you want about, people, create content all day long. The thing about it is people create content daily about the classics and this and that. And there's a time and a place for that. Sure. There's a time and a place for that. But here's my kind of like my philosophy, if you will, on this whole thing, or the kind of the way that I look at it is like, sure, I could start a Booktube channel and I could start doing reviews of, you know, all the mainstream or traditionally published books of the old that, you know, I enjoy and that are very popular, you know, but those book reviews at the end of the day, what kind of value am I bringing to the table as an individual reviewer, spending my time, energy, and effort to review books that have been reviewed basically by everybody and their grandmother, okay, under the sun has shared their opinion on said books. You know, you can share your opinions on that one. Maybe we could continue that kind of conversation in a hot topic. But as it is, as far as this goes, I think it's important to kind of highlight individuals who are taking the time to read more obscure books, because I think that adds actual value to the marketplace, because these are books that really nobody knows about, you know, in the grand scheme of things. So to have more people come out of the woodwork and start giving indie books a chance, I think that makes for, you know, some interesting content, you know. Oh, look, another guy reviewing, you know, so-and-so famous author and their so-and-so famous title, you know. Like, I haven't seen that 1,000 times. Let's see this particular individual's opinion about it. I'm sure it's not going to differ. You know, at some point in time, what I'm trying to get, the point that I'm making here, at some point in time, the variance in opinions kind of gets, you know, the gray area becomes, you know, so vast that it's like the variance in opinion from all the opinions that have already been shared on said title just kind of becomes so minuscule that it's like, you know, why are you sharing it? You know, unless except you're just trying to make some friends. I think that's really the end game. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about Lime's Fable. I want to read this review. Let's check it out, shall we? But first, let me bring up the book cover here. It is pretty cool cover art. All right, let's see. Let's check out what a 5-star review sounds like from A Look Inside. These folks over there. I don't know if this is a team of folks or if this is just a single individual. Obviously, a single individual that wrote it, but I'm just saying the actual blog itself. So I know that some blogs are actually run by like a team of individuals, a team of writers. I guess these people also do podcasts. All right. Agao Chan's Lime's Fable seamlessly melds fantasy and horror in a captivating tale that delves into a world of mythical creatures and extraordinary destinies. With a mix of vampires and lichens coursing through his veins, Damien's life takes an unexpected turn when a girl from another realm crashes into his world. Chan crafts a mesmerizing narrative that is equal parts suspenseful and intriguing, inviting readers to embark on a thrilling journey filled with danger, magic, and self-discovery. Set in a universe where, so I see we have a little bit of an introduction there. That is a pretty decent introductory paragraph. Now it seems like they're kind of going to start getting into like the different elements here. Set in a universe where a blend of Night Stalker races exists, Damien grapples with his mixed heritage while trying to find his place in the world. You know, perhaps some themes there. Despite his unique lineage, he's content with his mundane life until an unforeseen encounter shatters his routine. When a girl with vibrant red hair and mysterious powers literally crashes into his room, Damien's life takes a perilous and exhilarating turn. No doubt. The world building in Lime's Fable is vivid and enchanting. Chan creates a setting that seamlessly integrates elements of fantasy and horror, featuring creatures that both captivate and terrify. Damien's journey to navigate this fantastical world is punctuated with action-packed encounters and heart-pounding confrontations, all while he struggles to understand his own potential and purpose. So perhaps a little bit of a hero's journey going on here. The dynamic between Damien and the red-haired girl adds depth to the story. As they grapple with newfound abilities and face dangerous foes, their interactions are infused with tension and intrigue. The discovery of supernatural toxins, mysterious spells, and an arc leading to another realm contribute to the intricacies of the plot, keeping readers engaged and eager to uncover the next twist. Chan's prose is both engaging and immersive, weaving a narrative that combines vivid descriptions with relatable emotions. The blend of Damien's lichen and vampire heritage adds layers to his character, showcasing his inner conflicts and yearnings. The yearnings. Oh, I like that use of wordplay there. The stories, perhaps a little bit of bloodlust, if you will. The story's pacing is well balanced, drawing readers in with a sense of urgency while allowing space for character development and world exploration. In Lime's Fable, Agao Chan crafts a captivating fusion of fantasy and horror that will resonate with fans of both genres. The protagonist's journey of self-discovery and the enigmatic world he finds himself in promise an enthralling series filled with suspense, supernatural intrigue, and the quest for identity. All right. So that was pretty extensive review. It touched upon several different elements for the length of that review. Not bad. But for a 5-star review, I think I would have liked if they at least dropped some detail. I mean, there was some minor details shared, but still kind of vague at the same time. You know, maybe if they shared like one specific scene in particular, or their thoughts on one specific scene. And not only that, but also it seemed to me, reading it, that it came across as kind of a neutral review. Not a bad review, not a bad review, but not necessarily what I would consider a good review. Definitely see it, the wording of it seemed very neutral to me. You know, not in other words, not one and not one line of what I would consider criticism, as it were. But nonetheless, thanks for sharing that. That's what this is all about. I mean, this is we need to have discussions like this. You know, if this is going to be considered a culture, a way of life, we got to be willing to have these types of discussions out here. It's not just sell, buy. You know, we actually got to talk about, talk about these works as well, you know, and the people who, you know, not just talking about the works as well, but also having discussions with or about the individuals who are critiquing these works as well. because I find that interesting. I find that fun. That's the type of shit that I find fascinating about the indie scene. So hit me with it if you guys got something. Let's go on to the next segment here. We're going to keep this whole thing of book reviews going because I have one to share as well. I got a new breakdown for y'all. You know, you want me to say, hey, buddy, well, how about you? Fuck, I put my money where my mouth is. I ain't afraid. I ain't scared. All right. You can see what kind of reviews I write. My newest editorial, the new mystery pack reveals Jake Istenhedge, The Accidental Detective. And this is Omnibus, Volume 1. And this is written by Nikki Nelson Hicks. Okay. This is a cult detective kind of pulp fiction reading right here. And this is an omnibus, which means that there's actually multiple works. This is a collection of sorts. So an omnibus. So this could be like multiple novels, or in this case, it's like either two like longish short stories or kind of two short novellas plus a full-length novel that revolve around the Jake Istenhedge character. So funny thing about this omnibus. So I'm going to leave the link. I'm not going to go into the details here. I already said everything I need to say about the work in my editorial. So if you guys are interested to know how I do reviews, the things that I say, how I go about doing them, I'm going to leave the link in the show notes down below in post-production. You can check that out in your own time. It's to encourage you guys to read, read. So this, but I do want to say that funny thing about this is shortly after, hearing about this work and picking this up, and the word omnibus specifically, literally, like, this was like the first occasion, if ever, at least in a long time, if ever, that I heard someone use the term omnibus, or at least that I ever like paid attention to, I should say. And then it was like the strangest thing ever. It's like right after picking up this work and seeing this word omnibus. And the reason why it's funny is because I literally had to Google it. Like, it's been so long, or just can't remember the last time I heard the term used. I'm like, what the hell is an omnibus? So I had to Google it, right? And then shortly after doing that, it's like everywhere I fucking turn and look, I'm seeing somebody use that term, omnibus. Like in various, like unconnected, like individuals using this term. So I just thought that was like very interesting. It's like all of a sudden, it's like I hear the term, and then next thing I know, it's popping up everywhere in the Matrix. I just thought that was interesting. So Jake Istenhedge, The Accidental Detective, Omnibus, Volume 1 by Nikki Nelson Hicks. So yes, I am not just an indie author, but I actually take the time to read indie books. Not only read indie books, but also write reviews on indie books. So I would never, because I'm definitely the type of individual that it's like, I lead by example, okay? I can't stand people that do a lot of this, flap and bump their fucking gums, but then you go and you look and it's like, okay, actions speak louder than words, pal, okay? You're over here bumping your gums. I'm seeing you bumping your gums quite a bit, but, where's the proof? Where's the evidence of such things? You claim this or that, you care about this or that, you support this or that, but it sounds like a lot of this, a lot of quacking. Looks like a duck, sounds like a duck. As far as that goes, finish that one. So yeah, just wanted to say that much. I ain't trying to start an argument right here, right now, but just let it be known. I pay attention. All right, Gilded and Discord. Gilded and the Discord. If you want to get your work featured on the show, the easiest way to get your work noticed is to step up. Don't sit on your hands. Step up, step out, and step out of your shell. And you can join one of our group servers. It's an open invitation. Everyone is welcome, okay? You don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be an author. If you just want to be an active, a proactive supporter, in other words, you might be one of these people that read indie books and you review indie books. But the big thing about when you do that, though, is you're a trailblazer, right? You're kind of a big pick yourself up by your bootstraps type of individual, trailblazer. You move to the beat of your own drum, so to speak. And that could be a lonely thing sometimes, you know? So, it's one of those things where it's like, maybe it'd be nice to maybe be able to connect with other people who are kind of doing the same thing. You know, maybe they haven't read the exact same books that you have, but at least they're doing the same kind of, they resonate in the same type of sentiment. You can relate at least on that level, that you're both kind of people who are willing to kind of go against the grain, if you will, of what is considered mainstream or popular or pop culture type of spoon-fed, handed to you on a silver platter type entertainment. No, you know, you're not cool with that. You want to get your hands dirty. You want to discover your own shit. You know, you want to make your own discoveries. That's part of the fun of the indie scene. But it's also very much can be a lonely thing, which is why I say the indie scene is very much a community-based type of activity. That's where that word community comes into play, because it's people sharing word of mouth. But the thing about sharing word of mouth is you have to have people that you can actually share the word with. And that requires people to care what you have to say, you know? So, you know, that's why I'm hoping maybe kind of build up this network here of not just artists and authors, but just general supporters, people who want to be involved in the scene because they think it's fun. It's a fun activity, you know, and it's something different. So, open invitation to both the Gilded and the Discord in the show notes down below. With that being said, I have no expectations of you whatsoever. You don't have to share your personal experiences. You don't need to engage in small talk. You don't have to check in daily with me or anything like that. If you literally are an author or artist and you just want to use it as a resource to share links to keep me on the up and up with what you're working on, by all means. I can log in there, see who's sharing what, and then I can add your links to the queue so that I can plan out these shows ahead of time for you, you know, make it a quality show for you guys. You know, it's not just me sitting on camera doing absolutely nothing and just fucking sucking up your time. All right. Next, we got an opportunity for you writers out there. I have an opportunity for you writers out there. Those of you, if you know, you know. But for those of you who may be new, you can check this out. Tell me what you think. The Storytellers Society, still accepting open submissions. This is a public collaborative project, basically an outreach program, really, for my peers in the writing community. What I'm looking for is flash fiction for this project. Flash fiction for this project is fiction that is between 500 all the way up to 2,000 words. This can be fiction that you actually have published somewhere else, so long as you own the copyright and you have the right to give me permission to republish it on my blog, where it will be free for public viewing from now and indefinitely. Just because you submit something doesn't mean that your work will automatically be published. It does need to be approved, but if approved, then you'll effectively book yourself a room at what I've dubbed the Hotel del SS, where all the members of the Storyteller Society stay. What do you think of that one, huh? Not too shabby, huh? You know, I like to come up with multiple different ways people can get involved. Everyone has different levels of comfort, of what they're comfortable doing and engaging in. And let's see, last but not least here, last piece of news for me is you can subscribe to LFLR Weekly. Yes, this is my weekly newsletter that revolves around the entire Live Free, Live Rich brand. You just head on over to www.livefreeliverich.com. Right there on the homepage, it's a little spot where you can subscribe to my weekly newsletter. It's completely free of charge, and you will get exactly one email every week on a Saturday. I ship them out on Saturdays, and that will give you all the pertinent links from the previous week in regard to all the goings on with the Live Free, Live Rich brand, whether it's Live Free, Live Rich Entertainment, Live Free, Live Rich Network, and the whole shebang. And if you have some news you'd like to share it with me. I'd be happy to share it on a live stream on your behalf. So you got a book club you're starting up. You got some crowdfunding projects that have launched. You want to come on, you want to talk about it, whether it be your book clubs, your crowdfunders, what have you. If you got a special book deal going on, you're going to be doing a book signing in person. Do people still do those? You can let me know. And we'll talk about it on the show. When in doubt, here's the motto of the show. When in doubt, don't think, just share the link. And then I'll decide if it's something I can fit into the show. Don't think, just share the link. Everything else in your life, yes, think. Think for yourself. Use your brain. Okay, be a free thinker. Make up your own mind about things. Don't allow people to persuade you one way or the other if it goes against your personal beliefs. But as far as the show goes, don't think, just share your links. As far as that goes. What's going on, people? You alive? Look alive. How you doing in the chat? You doing all right? You hanging in there? Let's get some reading time. Let's wake that ass up, shall we? What do we got? I know I have a review. This time around, I got an editorial. So for the reader's review, I do short form reviews. But if you have your own blog and you write kind of long form editorial style book reviews, opinion pieces, if you will, you can share those as well. Even if they're on like a third party website, like Substack or something like that. I actually forgot that you said that. That makes it sound like I was singling you out. Wake that ass up. That was unintentional. I would never talk to you like that, DA. I don't know you like that. All right, this is what we have for reading time. For reading time, we have a book review. And this is a book review of The Wizard's Stone by Herman P. Hunter. Some of you may recognize the name. And this editorial is written by Trevor Denning, and it comes via his upstreamreviews.substack.com. That's his blog. And this is comes courtesy of the author. So let's check this out. Oh, you won't? I need some. See, why not though? That's the thing. I feel like in order for me to really break out as a creator, you know, I feel like I kind of need some controlled opposition, you know. So, you know, don't worry about it. I wouldn't block you, is all I'm saying. I mean, if you have to share some opinions on Twitter about how you really feel about me, you know, I'm just putting it out there right now that you won't have to worry about me ever reporting you for problematic language or blocking you. I don't do the blocking thing. I don't do the flagging and the reporting type thing. I just got better things to do with my time, and I don't have a thin skin as far as that goes, which is also why I don't share, you know, personal information online. I'll never get these individuals that come online and they start sharing a lot of personal information about their personal lives and like their families and all that type of shit. It's like you're almost asking for trouble when you do stuff like that. Do you realize the type of people that lurk on the internet? I never make it a point to share personal information, but if you ever, you know, if there just so happens to be someone out there, you know, and you need a Joker to your Batman, that's what I need. I need a Joker to my Batman over here. I feel like in order to really break out as a creator and an artist, you have to have some haters. You know, if you don't have haters, have you really made it? You know, it's the question of the day. It's the question of the day. It's a question worth pondering, I think. Where do I find haters? You know, not lazy haters. You know, not the vindictive, petty kind of haters that are like, I don't like you, so I'm not going to pay attention to you. Not those kind of haters. Not the baby, whiny, little goo goo gaga type haters. I don't like him. He can't play with us. You know, not those type of haters. No, I want the haters that are like malicious, you know, online. They're vicious with their tweets. You know, they spit vitriol on a daily. They get busy on that keyboard. You know, keyboard warriors, if you will. You know, fighting for justice as they see it from their perspective. Those are the type of people. Those are the people I need. Okay. Where do I find those people? How do I get in contact with them? I need some controlled opposition over here. All right. Let's see. Let's check out this review. Let's see how scathing this review is. I highly doubt I would like to give Herman the benefit of the doubt, but the thing is, I highly doubt Herman is going to share a scathing review of one of his books with me. I would be surprised if he did, you know. However, if you guys ever get a scathing review on one of your books, like for the reader's review, please fucking share it with me. That would be for some great entertainment. Have the grit, have the gumption, the guts to sit in the hot seat while I read one of your 1-star reviews live on the air. I think that would be fun, right? That would be fun. And if it's coming from some dummy, then let me poke fun at him, right? Feed me the silly, stupid 1-star reviews that your books are getting, and I'll make fun of them on your behalf if they're stupid. If they actually sound stupid. Because you know damn well I don't hold back. Yeah. Drama. I want some drama. Maybe I better be careful what I wish for as far as that goes. I better be careful what I wish for. There are some Looney Tunes out there that would do some pretty crazy shit. You know, I ain't trying to, You know, people got to understand, people got to know where to draw the line. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people online that don't know where to draw the line. But hey, good video series. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People, you got to start thinking outside the box, big brain stuff. You know what I mean? If you're getting 1-star reviews, fucking utilize my show. I ain't one of these hi ho, off to work we go, and everything is positive and sunshine and rainbows. That's not me. I don't give a fuck. If it's a negative review, ship it to me. Send it full send. I will read that shit live on the air, and I'll rip the critic apart if they sound retarded. Okay? And see, that's what you want. You want that middleman, because if you do it as the author, you're out of line. You're out of pocket, as they say. You know, if you do that, because you are the author, and that would be you invading a reader's space. However, if I do it, well, I'm just another potential reader that has something to say about the way in which an individual is conducting their criticism. That's all that is. Wink, wink. You know what I mean? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? Say no more. All right, let's see what kind of review we got here in this editorial. This is a book review of The Wizard's Stone by Herman P. Hunter. So it says in the subtitle here, a fantasy tale that stands tall on the shoulders of The Hobbit. Wow. Some bold words. This is written by Trevor Denning. Looks like we have 12 hearts on this one, and a comment and a repost of some sort. I'm not familiar with Substack. I'm pretty new to Substack. I have a Substack. I just haven't done anything with it yet. I don't know how I want to use it yet. But I suppose it's similar to, basically it's like, basically it's like a blog site with some social media type elements to it, is kind of what I gather from it. Anyways, since his epic fantasy tome fell into our hands, the shadow of J.R.R. Tolkien has loomed large over the genre. The Lord of the Rings defines it. See, I know I'm just getting started here, but for an opening line to a book review, I will just say that this definitely comes across to me as amateurish, very amateurish type of book review, because it's like what does this have? What does Herman's book have anything to do with the Lord of the Rings book? Unless Herman has some sort of like introduction or something where he is specifically stating something to do with the Lord of the Rings books. Like, I don't understand the parallel here, or the relevance of opening your review in this way. Because for me, one thing that annoys me when authors do it, not necessarily reviewers, but I would say this isn't a very good opening line. This is something that you might want to save for future reference. You might want to save for the end of your review. You know what I'm saying? Cover the source material first. You're talking about the Wizard's Stone. You're not talking about Lord of the Rings. So why are you opening your review with something about Lord of the Rings? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of, it's not doing the author, I feel like, as a reader, and I'm reading this, you're not really necessarily doing the author any justice by doing that, because now you're like coming across like, really, this guy's gonna fucking compare the Wizard's Stone to the Lord of the Rings? You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? How it could be kind of interpreted there. But, maybe that's a bit of a nitpick on my end. What do you guys think? I'm just going to say I'm okay with reviewers, not authors. I can't stand when authors they some authors will have a bad habit in their book blurb to make a comparison of their work to a famous work. You know, it's more of a slap on the wrist type of thing. I'm not necessarily going to hate on an author for doing it. Like, in other words, if they say, if you like such and such popular work by this such and such title by popular author, then you're going to like this. Or fans of such and such popular book will probably will definitely dig the such and such vibes of this book or whatever. You know what I mean? Like drawing that comparison, like it's a little bit tacky, I guess is the word. At best case scenario, it comes across as a bit tacky, you know, and there is a certain air of hubris that goes into drawing those connections. It's tacky as if like an author, it's about as tacky as an author rating their own book. You know what I'm saying? It's akin to doing that same thing. It's in that same vein where it's, why would an author rate their own book? Yeah, my own book. It's a 5-star book if I don't say so myself, you guys. Whose book? It's my book. Oh, it's 5 stars, you say. Well, let me open my wallet. But when a reviewer does it, it makes sense. When a critic does it, it makes sense. However, usually if a critic is going to draw that comparison, they're going to do so after they've done their full critique or editorial. In other words, they've set the stage. In other words, so they've already covered several elements of the book from which they can draw that distinction. So as the reader, when you're going in behind the critic and you're reading their review, you're learning about the source material first. Then you can kind of understand in the closing statements of the editorial or the review where the critic is coming from and say, yeah, I guess I could see where you're coming from with that, or how you could make those distinctions. See what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to like really grill your ass on this, but you know, it is something that I think it's done often enough that it should be addressed. Anyways, since his epic fantasy tome fell into our hands, the shadow of J.R.R. Tolkien has loomed large over the genre. The Lord of the Rings defines it. Such is the case with the Wizard's Stone, and comparisons are inevitable. Fortunately, the story of young Odo, who knows little of the world beyond his pastoral community, has an aura of its own. Like the Lord of the Rings, it's the story, you see, so just really sticking with it. I'm sorry, I can't let it slide. I got to keep talking about it. You keep bringing that up. So I say, instead of what you should have done then is another option is you can retitle your editorial here, because editorials will do that as well. Editorials, you can write an edit in a comparison piece editorial where you are, that is the whole point of the editorial, is to draw comparisons between two possibly unrelated works, or the, you know, comparing them where they may be related. I should say would actually make more sense. But so, you know, you could probably retitle your editorial as such so that the reader going into it says, okay, this is the whole point of this editorial, is to draw the distinction between the Wizard's Stone, which is contemporary piece of fantasy literature, with J.R.R. Tolkien's defining piece of the fantasy genre. Like the Lord of the Rings, it's the story of an unassuming innocent surrendering a treasure rather than finding one. But unlike that journey, the treasure itself isn't inherently evil, and he's in no danger of it corrupting him. So it's kind of like a surface level distinction there. Now, the lands he must travel are simply dangerous, and Odo has lived a sheltered life. Consequently, Odo's story is more inward than outward as he comes to a greater understanding of himself. And it's that key difference which makes his more than a ripoff. You're saying it's more than a ripoff? I don't even know where who was implying that the Wizard Stone was even a ripoff of the Lord of the Rings. Is that like a commonly held sentiment somewhere online that I'm unaware of? I haven't heard anyone say that. In fact, I had Herman on the show and I didn't even make that distinction. For this review, I listened to the audiobook. Some stories are best experienced, read aloud, and such is the case here. Yeah, I know the audio narrator. He did a great job on that one. Good narrator. Herman got a good narrator on that one. The story. All right, so we got some breakdown here. The story. Odo is an orphan who was taken in by the wizard Remfry. Though he was allowed to study books of magic and lore, he remains humble and holds his master in awe. Mostly, he just does chores around the farm, fearful of what exists out there. As we later learn, his fears are justified. War is a recent memory. Civilized society crumbled, what of it ever existed, and everyone is responsible for his own welfare. Thanks to Odo's dark skin, people are unsure of him. Without a family's love and support, he's unsure of himself. Maybe some themes of racism in there. When Remfry tasks him with delivering a magic stone to a faraway king, Odo is terrified, knowing he'll be facing the hardships of the cruel outside world. And the mercenary Captain Enoch, who is hired as his protector, isn't exactly reassuring. Remfry is willing to pay a fortune to the captain and his not-so-merry band of cutthroats to see Odo to his destination. But Enoch doesn't have to be nice about it. Not that the situation permits it. So I wonder, one thing that I am curious about is why is it important, or why is it imperative that Odo is the one to deliver this artifact? Along the way, Odo has to rely on his limited knowledge of magic, his wits, and most of all, the captain and his crew. They aren't much better or kinder than Enoch either. His travels take him to many grimy places with no Rivendell respites, and he ends up doing things that trouble his conscience. The spark of goodness he carries in his heart may be as or more important as the stone. So now we go into the characters here. Odo isn't Frodo. Is that another one of the oh no, is that another one of the surface level observations that you made here? Oh no, Odo. I don't know, Herman. He might have a point on that one, Herman. I don't want my main character to be named Frodo. So what am I going to name him? He's a main character. He's delivering a magical relic to a destination. There's fellowship involved. I don't want to name him Frodo, but it's such a good name. I got it. I'm going to drop the FR, and we're just going to go with Odo. Was that your thought process, Herman? Please tell us. That was not your thought process. Disavow. And we don't see him relishing in country comforts. Life has never treated him kindly, so he never expects kindness. He's timid and uncertain of everyone, even Remfry, whose influence is his guiding light. All along his journey, he finds himself wondering what the old wizard would do in difficult situations, of which there were many. Captain Enoch is a harsh mentor, fitting for a cruel world. In the places he takes Odo, it's kill first and ask questions later. And he's a survivor in a country filled with death. The rest of his crew is about the same. Everyone is distinct and has a backstory that gradually develops as Odo gets to know them. These are characters with ambitions beyond earning some gold and regrets deeper than a stack of dead bodies. Oh, that was a nice little, I think that was a nice little segment right there. That was a nice segment. Your coverage of the characters. Now let's learn about the world. The world. As you would expect, everything is in the mold of medieval fantasy with farms, fishing villages, and kings. Naturally, fantasy means elfin beings, monsters, and magic, though the monsters mostly remain in the shadows and the magic system itself isn't explained in any great detail. Mostly, we see that this is a harsh world, still recovering from the ravages of war. Simple enough, simple enough. The politics. He's got a special spot just for the reserved for the politics. He just says one word, none. None? Absolutely none? I thought there was a king. Does the king not play a role in this? Content warning. Uh-oh. You got a spot for the trigger warnings, huh? Nothing as frightening as Weathertop, nor grimy. I said grimy earlier. Grimy, I think is what he meant. However, wouldn't there be an E in grimy? Maybe he does mean grimmy. Nothing as frightening as Weathertop, nor grimmy as Game of Thrones. Or A Song of Ice and Fire, as far as that goes, I think is what he's getting at. Who is it for? This is an interesting segment here. Who is it for? So let's see who the critter. Let's see who the critic believes this book is written for. Your local bookstore might throw this on the YA shelf. Oh, Herman, what are you over there writing some YA, Herman? You going to find the Wizard Stone next to Potter? Your local bookstore might throw this one on the YA shelf and call it a day. But as someone said, all stories are for adults, and some can also be enjoyed by children. Anyone looking to scratch that Lord of the Rings itch with something more than pastiche will appreciate what Hunter does here. Well, that's a good line. I think that's a good line. See, if you were kind of rubbing me the wrong way with the comparisons there, but I think, that line right there is a good way to kind of sum it up. If you were going to make your comparisons, you say, okay, well, this is not Lord of the Rings pastiche, and I think that most people will kind of catch your drift. Why read it? There are some stories told with such loving care that you can feel it in every word and carefully crafted detail. These are works that the artist had to create and took time developing the skill to share with the world. The Wizard's Stone is one of those stories. This alone doesn't make it worth reading, though it certainly helps. When the fantasy story landscape is littered with nihilistic door stoppers featuring Mary Sue's, it's refreshing to find something simple and familiar that's not simplistic. There it is. I will be leaving the link to this editorial specifically for you guys in the show notes, and you can also check out Trevor Denning's Substack as well. I'd like to also thank the author for sharing that review with me, kind of giving that reader a shout out. Despite my personal opinions upon their efforts. But I definitely think that there is a certain degree of respect that goes to anybody that is willing to put in the effort, first and foremost, above all. You guys have something that you'd like to contribute to Reading Time? I'll read it live on the air, okay? Editorials, short story, well, flash fiction, really. Nothing too long, but it could be like a first chapter of a novel that you've written and published. This could also be poetry that you've written or essays on various different topics, not necessarily just writing related. But like I say, when in doubt, don't think, just share the link and I'll figure it out. Okay. I'll figure out if it's appropriate for the show or not to fit it into the show. And also I would like to share that if I've ever featured any of your work, on this show, then you are more than welcome. Okay, regardless if you were the one that contributed the link or not, you are more than welcome to download any of these shows. You can edit them however you want, make your own clips. If you have video editing skills, you can edit them up, make them funny, add background music, do whatever you want to these videos. They're free for you. I do this for you guys. I do this for the interaction. I do this for the engagement from the old community, if you will, okay? This is fun for me. So long as I'm having fun, I will continue to do these videos, so long as there are those of you who continue to show up, show out, and show your support for the indie scene. We can kind of do this thing together. Oh, yeah, for sure. What's going on, Rachel? Not too shabby, not too crabby. Kind of happy, actually. Kind of happy. But not in the archaic sense of the word. Not like the Flintstones. Yabba-dabba-doo! Let's go to the next segment. I've got some featured media tonight. You guys want to watch a video with me? This is a video essay. So just like with Reading Time, you can share various types of video content or media. I just call this segment featured media because it could just be audio-based media. Okay, so no visual, just the audio. That's fine. So think like book trailers. I would like to do some book trailers. If you guys have a short little, even if it's only like a minute long video, if it's just like a book trailer that you're proud of, fucking share it with me. Could be another way you can kind of double dip, if you will. If you've already had one of your books featured on the show, you could share the book trailer for that book with me and I'll watch it, during this segment. Also, like I say, video essays. That's what we got for tonight. I dig video essays. Video essays are quite popular in this day and age of VideoTube, and I like that they're kind of making a comeback. I like to see the long form content coming back because with all these platforms out here, these short form media platforms like the old Tiki Talk, if you will, that's popular with a lot of the kids rotting their fucking brain from the inside out. It's nice to see that there are some people that still like to use, a greater percentage of their brain, have the patience, the wherewithal, and the attention span to sit down and maybe, consume content longer than 15-second spurts. You know what I'm saying? And like kind of get a broader, thought-provoking kind of discussion going or ideas, concepts, conceptualize really what's being said in the video, go deeper than, which can't really be conveyed, let's just be honest, in a 15-second, 30-second clip. You know, that's not really the purpose of short form media, which that stuff is like crack to people. You know, if you're consuming short form content, they do it on purpose. These technocrats, they do this shit on purpose and they know what they're doing. That's why it's just, they make it very simple for you. It's the convenience of it. Slide your finger, slide your finger, slide your finger, slide your finger. You get a new content. And don't worry about curation. Fuck it. They're not even curating it for you. They'll do all let the algorithm, let the AI decide for you what it is that you should be watching. Does that make sense? Does that sound like you're using your brain, you know, to any significant degree? Or are you kind of just allowing other people to do the thinking for you? And you're not even people at this point, machines. You're allowing machines to do the thinking for you. But I digress. Holy shit. Look at all that meat. Rachel says, well, got nearly 300,000. I'm assuming words. 300,000 written in 3 months. Are you shitting me right now? Rachel, you been hitting the pipe? Kidding. I'm totally kidding. You've been visiting the old Mexican cartel for some of their product. Pulling all-nighters, huh? Not looking forward to editing, she says. Yeah, no doubt. Well, the thing about it is, I like editing. Well, okay. Let me correct that. Not a portion of editing. The revisions. I enjoy the revising, the proofreading portion of it. So the proofreading portion of the editing. But the fucking line editing, hell no. I fucking hate line editing. Line editing, but I kind of do both simultaneously, obviously. But once I'm done proofreading and making my revisions and, like, you know, spicing it up, you know, tightening the sentences or saying things, the wording of certain sentences and stuff like that. Once I'm done, gone through all of that, the entire piece from beginning to end to where I'm satisfied with it, I know damn well I'm still going to have to reread that sumbitch at least 2 or 3 more times just for line edits alone. Just for line edits. And even still, after you've done that, and this goes for the same for people who hire editors as well. If you've hired an editor, all my first volume of short stories, I did all the revisions and edits on my own. But if you hire an editor, you know, you're not guaranteed a clean piece of work. Just to put this out there, just because you go out of your way to hire an editor, you're not guaranteed a clean piece of work. You know, you definitely want to do your due diligence when it comes to hiring outside help for editing. You know, you want to hire someone that has some experience under their belt and they have evidence. They show evidence that they know what they're doing. What also helps is if there's somebody, one thing I'll say, if they're an editor and they do online content, that's a good sign. So if they're an editor and they create online content, and they upload videos on YouTube, not necessarily of them editing their clients' work, because that's a confidentiality thing. Usually they sign you're a legitimate editor, they're going to sign like an NDA or something like that before you're, maybe you're submitting your work to them or you've hired them, what have you. There's going to be some paperwork involved if they're legit. I wouldn't recommend just hiring any old Tom, Dick, or Harry, Susie, Sally off of Fiverr.com. Not to say that there aren't some good editors on Fiverr.com, but you definitely would want to do your due diligence as far as that goes. But again, just because you hire an editor, even if they're known as a good editor, doesn't mean that your work is going to be 100% clean after the fact. I mean, all typos, all misspellings, and it also depends what kind of editor you're hiring. But that's a whole another topic for another time, because we are talking about we are watching a video that is writing related. And this is something you need to figure out before you write a single word, according to the creator of this video. Figure this out before writing a word. And this is theme. Okay. This comes courtesy of YouTube channel Wrestling with Words via YouTube. And this is an individual who I've had one of his video essays. He's fairly new to the Authortube, kind of Booktube, I think mostly Authortube space. But he's creating video essays. You know, he's putting some production value into his videos. Let's see what he had to say here before I bring it up. So he got in contact with me just this past week on Twitter. So Wrestling with Words, aka Cameron Thompson, he says, you showed off an older video of mine, The Last of Us, and its world building. That's what it was, world building. I think I've gotten a little bit better with my editing and scripting and audio. So here's my latest video about theme. I appreciate you sharing that with us. So without further ado, let's check it out. Yeah, that's awesome, Rachel, by the way. You must be excited. Must be excited about that. All right.
What is the point of writing? What is the point of reading or watching a movie or even telling a story to a friend?
To be or not to be? You going all Shakespeare on us right out the gate, Cameron?
Friend. Why does any of this matter, and why do we tell stories in the first place? There's a good argument for wanting to entertain or be entertaining in the first place. And I think there's a strong argument to be made here. Although the more I look into stories and study how we tell stories and why we tell stories, there appears to be something more than just the entertainment value. Because to be entertained means to feel something, experience something. There might also be the desire for escapism, to be transported out of one's reality and into a new world or another character's life. But through both of these explanations and
the escapism thing, well, I'll have to remember that for another time. But I almost feel like there's kind of a hot topic somewhere in there as it pertains to the subject of people consuming entertainment or books or media for the sake of escapism, and how that's kind of like almost like I don't know, almost like a red, not a red flag, but it definitely says something. There's something there to be said about people who only consume art for the purpose of escapism.
Justifications. There is a commonality amongst them. At the heart of a story in any medium, there is emotional resonance. The ability of a writer or storyteller to take you from one place or feeling and bring you along into something else entirely. Experiencing and living through another person's reality is nothing short of magical. And in a way, it is a bit. We use clever tricks to make the reader invested in our characters and filled with wonder within our worlds. We take deliberate actions to invoke emotional responses when and where we want. Characters may be the vessel our readers and viewers enter into, and the plot might be the path we take them down. But the point of everything, the reason why they are here now, and why we are telling them this story at this time with these characters, comes down to the theme. Making a story that a reader, a viewer, or even a player can resonate with is, at its barest derivatives, the point. When we are telling a story, we are trying to convey something. We want the audience to feel something. We want them to laugh when there's a joke. We want them to cry when their favorite character's heart gets broken. And we want them to feel something even after they turn that final page.
So now it definitely sounds like you're coming at this from the, you've definitely have my attention now, because now it sounds like you're starting to come at this not necessarily as if you're talking about explaining what is entertainment, but more so you're coming from this from an artistic standpoint, which is interesting to me. So part one, figuring out your theme and sub themes.
The first thing that we want to ask ourselves when we are coming up with the themes of our story is, what are the central questions and the distilled essence of your story?
So one question I would ask you, Cameron, is, do you think that, you know, since you're on this topic of themes, or anybody watching this, if you want to leave a comment, do you think that theme within story is something that is intentional, or do you think that theme in story or in literature is something that kind of emerges almost organically as the story unfolds?
Think of the story that...
In other words, is it something that when the author, if they're a plotter or maybe a plantser, theme is something that is a conscious decision that they make, or if that or if it's just something that just subconsciously becomes a part of the story itself? You know, it just shows up. It shows itself. It kind of shows itself through, whether it be the plot, the characters, and the events that transpire.
We are trying to tell, we have to consider the central message. We need to ask ourselves what angle or stance we're trying to take and what we want the audience to walk away with. And this can come in many different forms or on many different topics, with theme being a broad, sweeping term. We can use theme to challenge traditional norms, portray universal truths, reinforce traditional norms or untraditional norms, and even make our entire story some sort of motif. An example of a strong stance or message that manifests itself into a central theme is Frank Herbert's Dune. Dune is an excellent example of maintaining a grand overarching theme.
I haven't read Dune yet, by the way.
Actually, themes, to be specific, of a story, while also juggling and introducing sub-themes that stem off of and even build into the main theme. But what's been stated before by the author is that the central idea of Dune and the grand theme mostly has to do with being wary of charismatic leaders.
Don't trust leaders to always be right. I worked to create a leader in this book who would be really an attractive, charismatic person for all the good reasons, not for any bad reasons. Then power comes to him. He makes decisions. Some of his decisions made for millions of people, millions upon millions of people, don't work out too well.
There are also other major themes that have to do with free will, prophecy, destiny, and what all this means in relation to prescience. However, there are some interesting sub-themes that at sometimes take center stage, but also give breath to some really interesting character moments and plot points. Some of those include juggling or deconstructing what it means to be considered human and what self...
Momoa's in that film? I didn't see the film either. Friggin' Momoa in there.
Identity really is. This is portrayed between Duncan, Idaho, and hate. There are also many sub-themes that have to do with the purpose of technology and the role that it plays in our lives. And we see this represented in a world that is lacking supercomputers or major computer devices, and instead inhabiting the mentats, as well as the pre-events that were titled the Butlerian Jihad. But aside from looking at some of these examples of how themes have been implemented into Dune, the main point is that we want to figure out the different angles that we can take when we think of our grand themes and how those can impact the characters and the cast that we have. This will also help us choose the direction we want to go with our plot and the overall pacing of our story and the different characters' arcs. As I've said in the past, there's a very strong synergy between plot, characters, and themes. All three of these generally help influence and guide one another, plugging in and playing off of each element. And we can see this synergy play out on a smaller scale in a film like Interstellar. I'm going to revisit this later, but one of the most interesting parts of writing your theme is the way you, the writer, and you, the audience, can interpret a piece of media. The two different parties, the creator and the consumer, can come up and receive entirely different meanings from a piece of media. Neither one of these are wrong necessarily, but it does make the list of themes we can explore and general themes almost endless. And I would argue that having a list of themes or themes that are explored in media is, in a way, pointless. There's not really any defined borders or boundaries to theme. And oftentimes, if we deliver a theme too clearly, it can turn off our audience.
So that's what I was. So that's one thing that I was hoping that you were going to touch upon is kind of the, that layer of interpretation there, that theme. So it does sound like you're coming at it from the right approach. What I would consider the right approach is that theme is something that is meant to be interpreted, not necessarily heavy-handed or shoved down your throat, because sometimes you can tell when that is the case. And that's kind of like what I was alluding to when I was asking you guys, like, do you think that theme is something that can be intentional or is something that kind of just, presents itself through the work based on what's taking place in the story itself or with the characters and the events that transpire in the plot? Because you can actually have writing exercises. So how there's like prompts. Sometimes people will do like writing exercises where they'll present a group of writers with a specific prompt, and then the writers need to come up with like a short story or flash fiction or something like that based on the prompt. Well, you can kind of do that as well by incorporating theme. So what you said right there is how those three elements are related. So you have character, you have plot, and then you have theme. I would almost say it's like, because the plot can vary. Plot is that's very broad stroke term to just say the plot. Well, what do you mean by the plot? The plot could be fucking anything. There's just a series of events that transpire in the story. That's based on how the writer wants to approach the way in which they're telling their story. But you could say characters, setting, and theme. So it's like, not to take away from it. I'm not saying the plot has nothing to do with it. I'm not saying that at all. So, you can make a point here. But what I'm saying is, if you wanted to do like a writing exercise, you could say, okay, here's a character. So you could say it's a father or it's a mother or it's a child, or, it's a specific, or it's somebody who has a specific job or profession. Okay. So you have that character. So define a character, right? Define a character, then put that character in a setting. So where are they? Where are they? Okay. The what's happening, leave that up to the writers. Okay. So the plot portion of it, leave that up to the writers. So come up with define a character or maybe a few characters, put them in a setting. So define the setting. So there's no world building that needs to be done or anything like that. There could be world building, but you're telling them where these characters are. So give them the character, define a setting, and then give the writers a theme, okay? And then see what each individual writer comes up with based on that prompt. So you say, okay, we got the milkman. He's in the suburbs, and the theme is infidelity. Right? So, and then you can just kind of see how each individual writer approaches that prompt based on those elements, you know, and you're giving them the theme. The theme is infidelity. Now, just because the writer knows going into the story that that's the theme that they're trying to incorporate in their writing is infidelity, the way in which each individual writer approaches that based on the character, they all have the same defined character, they all have the same setting, right? But the way in which they approach that, which would be the plot, the story that they come up with, the way that they choose to approach that can make all the difference. And that's where it's kind of like it's a creative writing exercise.
But that's really besides the point, and more of just a slight caveat before we look at how Interstellar's themes of love and time play such a fundamental role in the film. It really does make it a great example of the synergy between our plot, our characters, and our themes. Because if we zoom back and we think of the plot as a whole, Interstellar isn't really that extraordinary. Neither are the characters or the themes alone. If any one element is considered extraordinary for Interstellar, it might be the portrayal of the science understood at that time. But science aside, what makes Interstellar so compelling and such an acclaimed film is the combined effort of plot, characters, and theme. In each character, we see the manifestation of this concept of time and love. This theme shaping and giving our characters their own motives to explore the different angles of this theme. Similarly, in the plot, we experience the arc of each of these elements, seeing them play out and impact the story's core. To illustrate this, let's take a look at some of the characters featured in the film. First, we can look at Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey. Cooper's flawed love for his daughter drives him away from her, but eventually allows him to communicate beyond both space and time. We see the manifestation of this play out when he goes to the surface of the planet that's too close to a black hole. And when he returns, it turned out that he missed significant portions of his family's life. The scene is tragic, but really gives us an understanding of the sacrifice Cooper's making for humanity, but also kind of the flawedness, him abandoning his family for seemingly a greater good or a greater cause. And we can also look at the other character, Brand. Brand's love for Wolf Edmund is the motivation to choose Edmund's planet, despite him having died long before they arrive. Her love is what drives her to travel beyond space and beyond time. This desire, this feeling of love being a thing that communicates beyond the vastness of space. Her character is really the most optimistic take of this theme. And then there's Man, whose name might be a motif. Man represents the love loss for humanity and wanting to save himself over humanity. In one scene, there is a very tragic duality portrayed when Man is betraying Cooper to save himself. And in a separate scene, Cooper's family is on Earth debating on leaving their home. And
This was like a play on words there. Man is betraying him.
Living or staying and dying. Man has felt what it means to be alone and thus chosen to lie and possibly sacrifice the rest of humanity to save himself. In addition to this scene, the tragic realization of Cooper rushing
The selfishness of Man. That seems a bit on the nose.
away to save humanity while leaving behind his family is truly compounded by his daughter saying, "If you're not going to go, save your family." Brother responds about their father, where then she replies, "Dad's not coming back. He's never coming back." Each of these elements
He just, don't worry about it. He just went to the store to get some milk. You know, he'll be back any day now.
stellar. The plot, characters, and themes.
They don't have milk. They don't have milkmen anymore. They don't deliver it door to door, is what I'm saying. Well, maybe they do. There's a little time period when they, you know, the milkman phased out and before DoorDash phased in, you know. So I guess technically DoorDash is the new milkman.
On their own have probably all been done before many times and might even be a bit cliche in an isolated incidence. But together, put in the correct order and woven in a specific way, gives way to something much greater than each individual part. Integrating the theme and having them echo throughout your characters, your plot, and your setting is how we can create something truly original and magnificent.
Don't judge me, Cooper. You were never tested like I was. You men have been.
Okay, so we've thought of our theme and how it might play a role in our characters, our setting, and our plot. But this alone isn't exactly going to be enough to fully flesh out and give our theme an original feel. During the outlining or brainstorming portion, we are usually going to look at key points in our story and in our plot, mapping on the progression of our plot and our character's arc. While we're doing this, this is probably going to be the most skeletal feature or look at our outline. It doesn't have to be super detailed, but it's usually a good idea to have something in play when we consider how we want to implement this next phase of our theme. Because in this phase, we will start mapping out different themes we want to explore throughout the arc of the story. And in all honesty, this will probably follow the progression of your main character's character arc, as it makes the most sense that when our character changes, those are going to be some of the biggest highlights of our theme, or the biggest points in which our theme comes into play. Along the way, we're going to want to add roadblocks, testing and poking at our main themes, while also teasing out our sub-themes if we have them. And during this outlining and brainstorming portion, we can start to think of all of the different positions and stances that someone might have about that central theme. In the past, I've used the idea of true love or love being real in response to different types of character arcs. But as an example, let's use the theme, the existence of free will. With this theme, we can think of all the different nuances, stances, factions, beliefs, and opinions that someone or a group of people might hold about this theme. Doing this will help create opportunities for tension between characters and give way to different roles characters can play within our story. Just to name a few of these roles, we have a character or characters that are in opposition to our theme or stance, that might be allied to it, those that might contradict it, the truth tellers, the liars, the manipulators of the stance, and of course the foil. This doesn't name every dynamic, but it does cover them broadly. So maybe after we come up with a couple of different positions or stances and we arrive at our final overarching theme, free will and personal agency exist over predetermination and divine destiny, which so happens to be the main theme of Knights of the Old Republic 2, which just so happens to also contain one of my favorite foils of all time, Freya. And I do want to talk a bit about the foil and how they as a character device and literary device can help you better understand the themes that you are exploring. We can use foils to service the plot, but what I think is oftentimes more interesting is having them service the theme, or at least challenge the theme. And what I would argue is that the foil might actually be the most important theme-based character at our disposal, as they will act as reflection points, countering your main.
So almost sounds like the way that you're describing it, like you're coming at theme almost as if it's something to be debated. More like it's on as if it's speaking of like I know that there's the premise, and there's also you can have the premise, and you can have, which is kind of like a thesis, and then you can have like the antithesis of whatever the premise of your story is. But a theme itself, yeah, you could challenge themes. I could definitely see that, but maybe not necessarily in all instances. You know, it might not necessarily be a pro, like you're trying to make like it's a pro or con thing. Like just say one of the themes of the story could be friendship, for instance, but it's not necessarily the point of the story isn't to show the reader the pros and cons of friendship, but but it just so happens to be one of the themes of the story. You know what I mean?
In theme, creating tension, and playing overall this personification of the devil's advocate. Now, this character should be more than just that, but at its barest bones, this character will be a source of thematic conflict and even some tension. In our example of the Star Wars of the Knights of the Old Republic 2, Kreia plays many different literary roles, being both the antagonist and a mentor figure, while also being a thematic foil. Without getting into too much of the main plot or the story or the game itself, Kreia, in all intents and purposes, is quite literally bonded to you, the player. Despite the physical mechanics of the game, in Star Wars lore in general, always alluding to the light and dark side of the Force, Kreia represents and pushes for the player to fall into some sort of gray category, rejecting the polarity of the Force. She also rejects the predetermination that the Force generally alludes to, and later in the game wants to completely destroy the Force. Narratively, though, Kreia becomes a foil and a sounding board for many of the dialogue options throughout the story. She contradicts and speaks to many of the themes that are present in the game, most of which concern the Jedi's role and the role of the Force in the galaxy. The conversations you have with her are some of the most interesting philosophical and moral questions I've seen portrayed in a video game, and by far the most interesting philosophical questions I've seen portrayed in the Star Wars universe. She quite literally challenges the ideas and tests the player's philosophical understanding of the Star Wars universe. A major goal of hers is to destroy the Force and give free will to the galaxy. She is neither good nor evil, denouncing both the light and the dark side, and encouraging you, the player, to see the world as such, which actually goes in contradiction to the mechanics of the game that have a reward system in place for choosing either light or dark. No one wants to be told how to feel, nor told what they believe is the point of a story isn't the point of a story. The foil becomes a very useful character in testing the limits and angles of your theme, letting your audience interpret the story in whatever way they interpret it as. Sometimes the takeaways can be surprising and more interesting than the creator's intention.
I am but a mirror whose only purpose is to show you what your own eyes cannot yet see.
Everything up to this point will take place outside of actually writing your story. Some of the concepts you'll take forth and implement while you're actually writing, but the integration of your theme is something that can often require a bit more of a subtle touch. Being too heavy-handed with our messages will often appear ham-fisted and be very unappealing to your audience. We can all probably think of a book or movie that quite literally spelled out the themes of their story without leaving anything to interpretation. These usually don't land very well and can often be very polarizing for an audience. Not in a good way, though not entirely in a bad way either. But the best way to subtly introduce your theme is trying to find the synergy between your characters, your plot, and your themes, as this will give the theme a much more natural and purposeful feel when it is put onto the page. But let's look at some examples of how this was done and in ways this was done correctly. The Last of Us. Mostly I'm going to be talking about a TV show for the...
You love that show. You love it. You are a fan of that show. You brought that up. That was your world building one. You even brought that up. You're bringing it again. Is it critically acclaimed? Is that a critically acclaimed show? You own the DVD box set?
Examples here, as it is probably more focused and more direct to their themes than the video games are. Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann have both spoken about capturing the essence of the video game and carrying that through and implementing it into the TV show. And the essence that they spoke of capturing is, to nobody's surprise, love.
Hi, I'm Troy Baker, and I'm the host of HBO's The Last of Us podcast. And I also play Joel in The Last of Us video game, number 1. This is not a show about zombies. This is a show and a story about love. It's a story about two people that are both lost and find each other and how they make their way through this world.
Looking at our primary character, Joel, he really does embody the fatherly aspect and protector aspect of love. Joel's whole character arc is tied to this growing bond between him and Ellie and the role that he plays for Ellie, as well as him trying to get over the loss of his daughter. Joel shows us the violent lengths we are capable of going through for loved ones and in the pursuit of love. This becomes more and more clear as the plot goes on and towards the end of the show, mostly centering around the final episodes, one being the encounter at the cannibal camp and the other at the Firefly base. The game highlights this as well, as the player takes on a literal protector role, killing hordes of infected and people. And even beyond just Joel, each of the side characters reflect the theme of love and the lengths that each of us will go in pursuit of love. We see this in Frank and Bill's relationship, between Riley and Ellie, between Henry and Sam, and even in Kathleen's warpath. Each character in some way or another either reflect the main theme, provide a counterfoil, or a different angle to this central idea. This theme really manifests itself in the general progression of the story, with more and more obstacles and roadblocks being put up in the way for Joel's role to protect Ellie and his love for Ellie. We, the player, and Joel, the character, become more and more attached to Ellie, as well as Joel and Ellie's relationship. As we get closer to the plot's final destination, the harder we fight and the greater this bond becomes between Joel and Ellie. We see the lengths and feel the tension of this inevitable ending. And when we reach that ending, whether we agreed with Joel or not, we understand and empathize with him in his own warpath and his decision to save Ellie and not humanity. Setting can sometimes be tricky. We can use our setting to act as a general motif or symbol of our themes. However, more often than not, the setting will often be more of an amplifier for the characters and themes within the story. In The Last of Us, the setting acts more of an obstacle to Joel's love for Ellie, and also is the reason and the launching off point for our theme in general. The whole reason for Joel's arc is because of the setting and what has happened to this world. The thing to key in here is that the synergy that plays between plot, character, setting, and theme not only helps amplify each other, but it also should answer the point and show that this story couldn't exist without this setting, this character, this plot, or this theme. The combination of all of those and the implementation makes that story original and all the more powerful. And the integration of your theme into each of these elements can be a really fun way to make your story feel deeper and give it thematic weight. It is a great way to have your audience feel a deeper sense of immersion and give more meat for them to grab onto and invest their time in. There will be opportunities for them to say that aha, for them to piece together the motives of the different characters, and for them to feel that every moment means something, and that you gave them a thematic and emotional experience.
I'll see you around.
The touchy-feelies. Theme can certainly affect the touchy-feelies.
And finally, we enter the motifs and symbols and this sort of final conglomeration of thematic elements. Specifically, though, I want to talk a bit about motifs. Motifs are an interesting element that we can use to add another layer to our theme and story. Sometimes a motif can simply just be a character's name, and sometimes be the entirety of a story. We can use motifs to create a greater sense of depth to our story, adding meaning to different names and places, and even provide Easter eggs to the audience members that are paying attention. These will often reinforce our main theme and be the breadcrumbs that we leave throughout our story, leading them to the central idea or point. Motifs can be helpful to create connection points between scenes, characters, plot moments, all within the context of our theme. To name a couple of examples, we have Dune, with betrayal being a motif that's played off of, especially in the books, At the start of the novel, Paul is betrayed for having his back to a door, allowing people to sneak up on him. This occurs throughout the books, with characters being described in relation to different doors. Dr. Yen had his back to a door, foreshadowing his betrayal by the Baron, and Paul has his back to a door when the Sardaukar attack him and Jessica. Similarly, Paul says to Hoyt for the last time, "As you can see, my back is to a door," which is responded with, "The universe is full of doors," emphasizing that he will never be safe from betrayal. We can look back at Interstellar with Dr. Mann, his name being a motif for the flaw of man, the desire of self-preservation. And then throughout the Star Wars universe and in Knights of the Republic, you of course have the light and dark side of Force being the source of good and evil. And then finally, you have The Last of Us, more specifically, The Last of Us Part 2 in the video game. In the video game, Joel sings Future Days that is later sung at the end of the game. However, there is a bit of a twist when Ellie tries to play it at the end. The lyrics of the song reflect really well the relationship and dependency between Ellie and Joel. Motifs can be a really fun thing to play around with, and us as the creator often can hide things in plain sight that relate directly to the themes, the plot, or the overall story. Next time you're reading a book or watching a film, see if you can identify any motifs that are left behind. I think the best part of the theme is that it doesn't necessarily need to be interpreted by your audience, and they can differ from different perspectives. Now, even in saying this, that doesn't mean that theme isn't important. There still needs to be a theme there or some sort of message there. And what's also really interesting is that,
see, that's the part where you almost have to be careful too, because it's like, because people get turned off. Some people get turned off when as soon as you start saying things like, what's the message, but really it's just another way of saying, like, what's the fucking meaning? Like, what does it mean? What is at the heart of the story? But there's more to the heart of the story than just the theme. Like, the theme itself doesn't necessarily define what is at the heart of the story, but the theme might actually be what causes the readers to relate with the story. So if people see, in other words, if the reader recognizes familiar themes, then if they see a character dealing with familiar themes or themes that they themselves are familiar with, then they are more likely to be able to relate with said character, which makes them more vested in the story. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that that particular theme is not what lies at the heart of the story and defines what the story is about, maybe for that one particular character. But yeah, I mean, it could definitely play a role though in terms of what lies at the heart of the story. Like, what is the meaning of the story? What is the purpose of the story? What was, it goes into this whole thing. And this is the type of conversations that when you start talking about something like themes and stuff like that, it's definitely going to spark all sorts of conversation and discussions about what people thought of this, that, or the other in terms of how they interpret the story, like what the story was about, what the meaning of the story was, what was at the heart of the story, what was the message of the story. You see what I'm saying? So, because some stories it's easier to do than others. Like I say, some stories it's like they're very heavy-handed. It's easy to tell. It's kind of easy to see kind of what the general authorial intent was with the narrative itself, but other times not so much. And themes definitely, you are right in the sense that sometimes themes definitely play a role in trying to figure that out, trying to piece that together.
At commonly what the creator thinks their story is about,
but also the fact that that is something that is open to interpretation is what kind of sparks the conversation, what kind of drives discussion, if you will, which is good. Because if everybody just automatically knew, if it was like see spot run, you know, spot sees the ball, like it's this very concrete, like, yeah, we know what's happening. We know what's happening on the page, but what's the story about? You know, something as simple as see spot run, you know, could spark conversation as far as that goes. Probably not too deep, you know. People get pretty it's kind of interesting sometimes just to see the type of shit that people will come up with too, when they kind of like, they think that they're being smart. I mean, there's the other end of the spectrum too, where it's like people think that they're being fucking smart, but really what they're doing is they're seeing shit that actually isn't there. You know, another part of it is like, if it's not on the fucking page, there's a difference between reading between the lines and literally just creating shit in your head that isn't there on the page, you know?
Out and what the consumer thinks the story is about might be entirely different. Even in some of the examples I used today,
Yeah.
some people might read into different stories and have interpreted them completely different than myself. And what's also interesting is that you, the creator, or the
just to bring that up real quick. Yeah, because they are not one and the same. They are not one and the same. So Rainer says, yeah, I agree. The story, when you say it needs a theme, but we don't necessarily need a message. So theme, and if the story has a message, you see what I'm saying there? You see what I'm saying? Prime example. So when you say that your story, what is the message of your story? Well, that could turn people off, because not a lot of people may feel that if a story, it is implied that the story has a message, then it could appear as though people are being preached at. And I know that's a big turnoff for a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, theme, by and large, is just really how we relate with one another as human beings. So even like another use for a theme is like, think fantasy, right? When you have orcs and elves, you know, orcs and elves, shit, even when you're dealing with men and women, you know, you say, oh, I'm a man. I don't know what it's, a woman would say, well, you're a man. What do you know what it's like to be a woman? You know what I mean? And then flip it around and be like, well, woman, you don't know hardship. You live life on easy mode because you're a woman. What do you know what it's like to be a man and how hard life really is? You know what I'm saying? But then that could be the purpose of the story, is to illustrate the contrast, the juxtaposition of what life is like as a man versus what life is like as a woman through the use of theme. Through the use of theme, you could show similarities and contrast, similarities and differences, and that contrast between the sexes through a variety of events that transpire that both sexes may be experiencing simultaneously at the same time. You see what I'm saying? But you kind of get two different kinds of points of view, and you can kind of see the reader, not necessarily the characters, mind you, but the reader could see and draw similarities between the two through the use of the themes in the story. So yeah, they have their differences, but in a lot of ways, the sexes, I can see how the sexes can relate with one another on a human level. Through humanity, their humanity.
creator in general can keep this a mystery and never tell anyone what that story actually means or what it is actually about. And this can still resonate with people. Many creators have said, oftentimes stating what your intention was for a story often takes away the mystery of it. But that doesn't mean that that story didn't mean something to them in the first place.
That's one of my things. Whether or not the audience knows about it, I know about the characters.
Tarantino. I like that you slapped some Tarantino in there.
Past, and I just want the actors to know. Now, the audience doesn't need to know. Like, for instance, Brad Pitt's character, Aldo Rain, has a rope burn.
There's a guy, right? There's a guy, okay? And the audience, they don't need to know, right? There's a guy and there's a girl and there's a chick, right? And they're in a diner, okay? All right? Follow me now.
Exactly.
Around his neck. But I never wanted to explain how it happened.
Desperately wanted to know.
Well, I want to just figure it out. All right. I mean, that's up to you to supply where that rope burn came from. I like the idea that if you contemplate why there is a rope burn there, and somebody else contemplates why there is a rope burn there, and somebody else contemplates it, and 3 different people come up with 3 different reasons why he got a rope burn, those are 3 different movies you all saw. And I like that idea. I like the idea that you opened up the briefcase in Pulp Fiction, and I don't tell you what's in there, but it's up to you to figure out what's in there. And now that's your movie, and you'll make that decision somewhere down the line. Now, if I tell you at this table what it is, then you'll throw that away. And I don't want you to throw away. That's your movie.
And in a way, I tend to agree. I myself have always been an advocate for ambiguous stories with ambiguous endings or ambiguous themes. Some of the best books or movies or even video games that I've finished in the past are ones that I've walked away and wondered, what is the meaning behind X? And upon further reflection, I come up with what that meant to me. If I would have gone to the writers or the creators and they told me, no, you have it all wrong. It's about this or it's about that. That may have ruined part of it for me.
See, that I definitely agree with you on, because that's not the purpose of art. That might be the purpose of propaganda, right? Sometimes it's a fine line. Sometimes it gets a little bit weird, right? It gets a little bit weird sometimes. That fine line between what is art and what is propaganda. But usually a good tell is if there is nuance. Art will usually have nuance, and art will usually have some form of juxtaposition. If there's no nuance, there's no juxtaposition, shit is just getting ham-fisted, shoved down your throat, and there's only one true way to interpret what it is that you're looking at or you're consuming, then odds are, you're probably reading some you're probably looking at some propaganda, of some sort, some lowbrow, maybe exploitive, type of, subpar trash, really. Especially if the artist is coming out and saying, no, this is how it's meant to be interpreted. This is what this means. This is what that means. And they're just explaining away everything, even if it's not even necessarily a political thing. It doesn't have to be political. In other words, we're saying it's propaganda. Propaganda is an arm of that, which is politically based. But even if it's not politically based, it's not art if the author or the creator can just explain away everything. If they just fucking explain away everything, well, they haven't created art. Okay, they've created maybe a vanity project of some sort. Check out my macaroni art. Check out my macaroni art. Well, that kind of that's a really nice that's a really nice looking car you have there. It's not a car, it's supposed to be a hamster. Okay. It's a fucking Rorschach test is what it is. It's a shit test.
In a certain way. But after all, when it comes to telling a story or consuming one in some way, we want to be able to feel something, to be connected to something. There is a central point to every story, and having a theme that resonates is why we tell the stories that we tell. Because the point of telling stories and the point of stories will always come back to its theme.
All right. is wrestling with words. Thanks for sharing that. That was fun. He's creating some good quality videos over there. All right. You guys want to share some media? Go right ahead. You know what to do. You know what to do. I don't need to repeat myself. I'm just going to slide right into the next segment. Slide right into the next segment. We're going to keep the next segment short, and then we're going to jump right into the wrap-up. And this next segment is Hot Topic for Content Creators. Hot Topic for Content Creators. This is where I pitch a hot topic to you guys, and then you guys turn around, create your own content on said topic, and you can come at it from a variety of different angles and come up with your own subjects as they pertain to said topic, and we can kind of embroider this topic together. So you can leave your comments, or else you can always just leave your comments down below, or check out any of my previously pitched hot topic videos. For this week, I got a little bit of indie author folly for you guys. Indie author folly. What I'm looking for here is I want you guys to share the public relations, the business practices, or marketing strategies of indie authors that make you cringe. Okay. Now this week, maybe not so cringy. Not so cringy. But this is a subject that I kind of maybe touched upon earlier in this kind of ongoing discussion here, but never really went into too much detail. And I kind of want to just kind of touch on it a little bit more. So maybe if there's any kind of misunderstanding as far as my stance on this goes. And that is when indie authors debut, when indie authors make their literary debut with a book from a planned series. Okay. Now, I will just say right out the gate with a little right out the gate here, I don't think that this is folly. I don't think that this is, I would consider this folly as much as I would just from a business standpoint, I would say it's more falls under the, in the realm of risky. Okay. Not so much folly or a blunder as much as you're taking on risk. Okay. From a business sense. So let me kind of hash this out. So there are some exceptions to this, of course. So what are the exceptions? So the obvious exception to this is if you are planning to be a self-published or independent author, okay, and your debut novel is going to be one of a planned series of books, okay, whether it's a duology, a trilogy, or the uncommon tetralogy. Don't hear those too often. The tetralogy. What would be a tetralogy? A tetralogy, I imagine if you were going to do a tetralogy, maybe the YAs would have tetralogies. Tetralogies. Think like if you're like, oh, okay, you're going to do a 4-book series, and it could be their freshman year, their sophomore year, their junior year, and their senior year. There you go. There's your tetralogy. Anyways, so the first exception, if you're planning on making your debut as an indie author, and the first book that you're going to publish or have published is going to be part of a series, then book 1 of your series needs to turn out to be a complete banger. That's right. You need to knock that shit out of the park. It has to be a superb introduction to the series that leaves the readers thirsty for more. You might be thinking to yourself, John, obviously, right? Who's aiming for mediocrity, right? That is a good question. Who is aiming for mediocrity? No one wants to be mundane. You know, you don't want to put out a mediocre product. You know, you don't want to have a mediocre debut. All I'm saying is it may be the obvious. That's why I say it's the obvious. But if what I'm really saying here is that's the book of your series that you should have the most time sunk into. The most time sunk into. Now, you may, another exception to this, which kind of dovetails, is if your first book as an indie author, your debut is going to be one of a series, then perhaps you already have people that want to support what you do. Okay. In other words, you already have a solid base. It could be 10, 12, 15, maybe 20 or 30 or so people in your personal life that just want to support what it is that you're doing. Okay. Now, this has more to do with the marketing. Okay. Like before the publishing part. So in other words, another way of looking at it is like you want to build up some, perhaps hype is not the best word to use, because hype can fall flat once the finished product comes out, and that could come back to bite you in the ass and blow up in your face. But if it's from genuine folks who are just like, they really just are ride or die for whatever it is you do. These could be your friends, family, what have you. Okay. And these are just people that want to support what you do. Then, yeah, maybe that could be an exception. And it might be okay to just go ahead and green light that project and say, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. From a business standpoint, mind you. Okay. Because if it's just an artistic thing and it's just, a personal project and you just put it out there, fair enough. Fair enough. If you don't care about, the sales, whatnot, what have you, because if you go into it and you don't have a support base of, you don't have a base of supporters, base, level of interest, if you will, before it's published, God forbid, after it's published, now you're playing catch up and you're trying to generate interest for something that's already been on the market for a while, then it might be difficult. Now, say you have that hardcore support group. You could have that hardcore support group. This could be friends, acquaintances. Say you got Booktube friends, right? You've made a bunch of friends in the Booktube community that will be there to support you when you launch your series. Okay, that's a plus, because now you have people that are on a platform and might be willing to say a few words about your project, and kind of get the word out there. That's pretty good. Now, those people might be willing to read book one, and those people who are your hardcore supporters, just because there may be friends, family, what have you, there's a personal connection there, they might be willing to read the series over a period of time. People who aren't, though, might look into it, and if book one isn't a banger, if book one fails to hook, then it's going to be the law of diminishing returns after that, because now you got to deal with the fact that you got a bunch of people that read book one, but now you're spending your time and you may have book two ready to go for publish, and you're starting to get some negative feedback about book one. But now here you are with book two and you're getting ready to publish book two. You're going into publishing with book two, dealing with negative feedback from book one. And then where you're going to be at when you have to start writing book three, knowing that the vast majority of people who read book one aren't going to be continuing to book two. You know, I'm coming at this from a very negative stance, it might sound like, but I'm trying to just come at this and just say from the sense of indie author folly, right? As it pertains to business is, again, what I'm trying to say here. You're making the conscious decision as an artist, as an author, to make your debut novel be one of a series of linked books. Okay. I'm saying you might not be doing yourself justice as an artist. You might run into things like burnout. You might end up shelving the series, which would not be a good idea. Let's check out some remedies, because I don't want to just be feel like I'm pissing on people's parade or anything like that. Here are some remedies that I'll just say. So let's say, for instance, it's already in print. Okay. Let's just say you've already put book 1 out, and now you're for whatever reason, you are just, it's not doing well. You want to move on. You want to do other things. One way that you could remedy that is to take it out of print. If it hasn't gotten a lot of sales or anything like that, if it hasn't really generated any kind of buzz online, you haven't already had a bunch of people come out of the woodwork and say something about it on your behalf, you could take it out of print and just kind of, we'll just pretend none of that ever happened. That's always an option. That's an option. And then you could move on to something else and just learn from that situation and just say, yeah, my next time, I'm going to do things differently. Plan accordingly. So another remedy is say, forget the readers, because this is in the same vein now, because this is a question that's been asked numerous times that I've seen floating around Booktube, Authortube, mostly Authortube on YouTube, is what happens when the author DNFs their own series. Forget the readers DNFing a series. What happens when the author DNFs their own series and they've already generated some interest in that series from the readers? Well, that's a pickle, to find yourself in. You've got readers that are like, what the hell, man? What's going on here? What are you doing? We're waiting on you. What's going on? Where's your work ethic? You not knowing that, going into it, you thought, well, I'm just going to go and start a series. But now you're on book 2, book 3, book 4, and you're like, well, I don't really have any interest in finishing this series now. What are you going to do? How's that going to reflect on you? These are thoughts now going on in your head. So I've heard indie authors ask, this is not a question that I ascribe to. I've heard indie authors ask the question, do authors owe readers books? Okay. Well, first off, imagine having that problem. Am I right? I think that's a problem most authors would welcome with open arms. Picture a bunch of self-entitled, as some authors kind of insinuated with the way that they answer this question. Picture a bunch of self-entitled readers who are just chomping at the bit, to get their hands on your next release. But you decided to have the brilliant idea to jumpstart your career as an author, as a published author, with a multi-book series. Okay. And now here's the predicament you find yourself in. And you're no longer interested in finishing the series. The story, your heart isn't in it. Okay. Don't worry about it. I got you covered. Here's some remedies. Here's some things that you could do. Okay. It's not necessarily, it might still lose you readers. It might still lose you customers, but you might be able to salvage at least your reputation, in most instances. I would say one would definitely be some transparency. So publicly, don't waste any fucking time don't waste any time at all. If you have a series that has made sales, but for whatever fucking reason, your heart is not in it anymore, and you just can't bring yourself to write those final books of the series, then you need to get online and you need to publicly announce the cancellation of that series and document that so that readers and customers can use that as a reference and just say, yeah, the series was canceled at such and such date. You know, it was such and such date that there was an official, because you'll see with a lot of like streaming services and distributors will do the same thing. So like, for instance, you've heard of Netflix series, you know, they get signed on for multiple seasons, but then shows end up getting canceled after season 1 because it turned out to be a flop or something like that. You know, you got to make that, it's just a professional kind of way of doing things. So it does show an air of professionalism if you're willing to do something like that publicly. So that's, I think, if someone did that, I would be like, well, you know, it definitely says something in terms of their character, that they're willing to kind of face their, you know, maybe their fan base, if you will, what, depending on what little it is, doesn't really matter, but just the fact that they were willing to put their face out there and say, just like I tell people to stand behind your product, right? If you put something out on the market, stand behind your product. Well, I don't really, you know, whatever. Your opinions of your work may change over time, but you put that out there, you have your name on that. So in essence, you do have to take some sense of responsibility for what it is that you decided of your own free will to put out onto the market. That's one way of doing that. So publicly announcing the cancellation. Guys, I'm not feeling it anymore. I can't finish this series. Now, you guys, what I'm saying to you in the future is that I'm not going to jump right into writing another series. You know, I might try writing some standalones. I might try writing for some other publications or magazines or stuff like that. You know, there's all kinds of different ways that you can continue to be a published author and earn respect at the same time and garner a positive reputation and be able to walk away from something that your heart and you just don't have a passion for anymore. But you still have a passion for writing. It's just not for that particular project. You know, sure, it might show a little short-sightedness, you know, from the get-go, but shit, you know, we're all human. People make mistakes as far as that goes, you know, and the people who are rational and reasonable, I think, will be able to kind of see that in somebody who's willing to make that kind of decision. Now, another way to kind of remedy that is you can never say never, and you can choose, you know, I'm not going to quit this project. I see that there's people who are interested in seeing how this story, resolves, comes to a conclusion, they want closure, what have you. And my reputation as an author is on the line here. I don't want to gain a reputation of somebody who writes checks their ass can't cash, right? So another is just figure out a way to finish the series. Now, one way that you could do this, not on your own, is you could co-write the rest of the series. You could maybe find another author out there who's willing to take on the project with you, tackle the project with you, and co-write the project. I'm not saying ghost write, because yes, you could hire a ghostwriter to kind of finish your series for you, but from my experience, usually within writer circles, like when fans find out that an author uses a ghostwriter, you know, for their works, you know, it does not usually reflect well upon that author's artistic merit, let's just say. And it tends to kind of put a damper on their reputation. I mean, if there's obviously, if you're saying you're an author, but you're not the one actually writing the work, well, you know, are you really an author, or are you just a publisher at that point, you know? So let's talk about some other angles here to come at this. So you're an indie author. Okay, you're an indie author. We're talking indie author folly here, which is less folly in this instance, more of a risky endeavor to make your debut as an indie author, to debut with a book that is going to be one in a series of books that are intertwined with one another. Okay, so you're plan on writing a trilogy, a tetralogy, or a whole, maybe you're going to do a Wheel of Time thing. You got 15 books or whatever it is. You know, you publish book one. Okay, you got a passion for it, right? You have a passion for this project. However, you also want to make some money. All right. You're doing it as a combined business endeavor and an artistic passion project. Okay. But you are trying to make money from it. In other words, you're putting it on the market. So you publish book one, but it's a flop, or copies move about as fast as molasses. Okay, copies, that's how fast they're moving off the shelf, as fast as molasses, if you could picture that, right? You're selling like maybe one copy every other month. Maybe you sold one copy each season of the year. Now you're trying to think to yourself, okay, I have a passion for this, but the way that it looks, it's not going to be something that I'm going to be making a whole hell of a lot of money at. So now you're thinking to yourself, well, as a business endeavor, something that doubles as a business endeavor, is this worth my time to be sinking my time, energy, effort, and money? Because thinking editors, cover design, you know, you're trying to put out the best possible product that you can. You're proud of your work. You're trying to build up a body of work. But you're thinking about the sink cost, all that sunk cost into this creative endeavor over the long term. Well, here's the thing. You'll want to finish the series, but you're thinking, if book one isn't selling, then who the fuck are you marketing to for book two? Who's your market for book two? Who's your market for book three? God forbid, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Now, here's a little aside. The aside here, again, I will state, if you're enjoying yourself, finish what you start out to do. If you're just enjoying yourself, this is a passion project, okay? Then finish what you start and accomplish what you had set out to do. I will say that you will, if it's a passion project and your heart is in it, then you will, I'm telling you, you will feel an overwhelming sense of achievement when it's all said and done, okay? Because I will say there's no shelf life when it comes to literature. Look, people still read books that were published decades ago, centuries ago, okay? This thing is just like there's some sort of shelf life when it comes to literature and reading literature. Oh, I can only read what came out this year. No. Finish your series, you know? You might not make a lot of money. It might be a long time before you before you can even break even as far as the investment goes, all across the board in terms of your time, effort, energy, and your own seed capital to finish that project and create a quality product. But at the end of it, it's just make sure that it's something that you can be proud of and you can stand behind that product and say, I fucking wrote this, I created this, and this is some good fucking work right here. Okay. I mean, you're not rating your work. like we talked about earlier, but I'm just saying it's something that you are proud of at the end of the day. You know that you gave it your all. You know that you put your heart and soul into it. And it's something that you can be proud of. It's not just something that, there's a difference. Like if you're writing to market, your heart and soul might not be into that. If you're just looking up fucking keywords, doing SEO bullshit, and you're just like, oh, it seems like teen fiction with a love triangle that involves werewolves and vampires is very popular right now on the search engines. Maybe I'm going to write a paranormal romance that has those elements. It's a bit, like it's a bit robotic. That's a bit of a robotic kind of approach to it. I would argue not so artistic. Artistic usually it starts from within. The value, the artistic merit of a work usually starts within the artist themselves. They're not necessarily writing for anyone else. It starts within themselves. It's something, it's a feeling, not just a desire, because it's to say like that would be masturbatory work, right? You just say, I'm just writing this because I want it, just to say that you're creating a piece of art that resonates with you, but it's also something that you feel like you need to do. Okay, it's not just something that is like you want to do it, but you feel as though you have to do it. That's kind of like the difference there, I guess, when I was saying you're writing to market versus you're writing to create a piece of art, a piece of art in the form of literature. So here's another remedy, though. Okay, so say you're very passionate about it. Another remedy I would say rapid release. Okay, if you can release if you can release 2, 3, 4 books, like say you can release 4 books of your series in one fucking year, do it. You could spread them out. You say, one for the spring, one for the summer, one for the fall, one for the winter. I think that's a decent spread. Usually it's a 6-month spread, 2 books per year. But at the very least, do 1 a year in succession. Don't have multiple years, in between books, because that's going to, I think, hurt you on the marketing end. Because if you have rapid release, what I've seen as a reader and following like Booktube and stuff is if you do rapid release, you're going to see booktubers talking about a series that you heard about earlier in the year and be like, holy shit, what didn't they just come out with book 1 earlier in the year? And now it's triggering that FOMO, the fear of missing out. You're like, oh shit, this booktuber is already talking about book 3 and I haven't even hit book 1 yet. Shit, I got to get this show on the road here. You know what I mean? So that's, like I say, the rapid release. Rapid release could work in your favor. Even if it seems as though book 1 has kind of flopped, a month has gone by, 2 months have gone by, you're getting nothing. There's no activity. The books aren't moving. Just boom, move on to the next, move on to the next, move on to the next, move on to the next. And just try to get them out as quickly as possible, because even with that rapid release, just know that you're still wanting, I understand you still wanting to take your time and put out a quality product, but the rapid release should be part of a goal. Like if you're going to plan this out ahead of time. I mean, obviously, hindsight's 2020. I'm talking about if you've already fucked up, in quotes, and made your debut with book 1 from your series, and it's already out there, then the best course of action, I think, from that standpoint, because you got to look at it like, well, look, if book 1 ain't selling, then who am I marketing for book 2? Who am I marketing for book 3? At that point, it's just try to put out the best product that you possibly can in the shortest time frame as possible and get it done. You're going to feel a sense of achievement once it's done, and then you can decide from that point, all right, now I might take my career as a writer in a different direction. I might try some standalones. I might try to, I'm still in love with this particular series. Maybe I will write some spin-offs, some one-offs, some short stories involving some of the characters from this world that I created. You see, there's all these different options to remedy it. So I don't want people to think that, it's absolute folly if you make your debut as an indie author with a book from the series. No, I'm not saying that is folly, but I am saying that you're taking on, from a business standpoint, you're taking on a lot of financial risk in the sense of overhead. You're making, in other words, you're front loading your investment as an artist. And those are some of the possible downfalls that you could deal with. Burnout, things of that nature. If that's something that you believe in. I don't necessarily believe in burnout, just like I don't necessarily believe in the idea of writer's block. At the end of the day, really, what is that? It's just you're not sitting down and you're trying to use your imagination. You might need to just start opening up your mind a little bit more, or you need to start reading things outside of whatever genre it is that you've been pumping into your brain and consuming. If that's all you consume is romance, well, eventually you're going to know all the variances involved with writing a romance and all the elements that go into that, the tropes and the cliches and what have you. And if that's all you know and that's all you write, well, then it's no surprise that eventually you're going to run into this made up thing called writer's block, because your writing is probably become very formulaic. You're not exercising your imagination. You're just trying to piece together familiar pieces of a puzzle that you have already read time and time and time again. So maybe it's time to start reading, books from other genres that you've never read before, maybe some nonfiction as well. And that might serve as means of inspiration. Now I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. That's the hot topic for this week. What do you guys think? Should indie authors be launching their career and debut their career as indie authors, published authors, with books of a planned series? Or worst case scenario, they haven't planned the entire series and they're just saying, this is book one of this series. And no, I've done absolutely no brainstorming or anything. I just thought I was going to be able to pants my way through an entire series. Isn't that what George did? How's he doing these days? All right. Now it's time for the wrap up. Time to say our goodbyes for this week. See where you guys are at. Before I do, let me close my poll here. I had a poll. It looks like on YouTube, I had 2 people answer my special question. And in order for you guys to know what my secret hush hush question of the week was, you needed to have your ass here live while the show was on the air and be active in the chat. So my super secret question of the week, my poll that I had, YouTube, we had 3 votes, and the answer, it's a yes or no question, super secret question of the week. We had 3 votes, and 100% of those votes said yes. Now, I am multi-streaming. And interesting enough, over on Rumble, that's right, over on Rumble, I had someone answer the question, and guess what they said? Over on the Rumble platform, interpret that how you wish. They said no. Can you believe it? I responded, really? That's right. It's not everybody believes it. Not everybody believes. If you believe. Da, 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 da. All right. Now let's get into the wrap up. I got some theme music for you guys here that I'm going to put on for the wrap up. And here's the theme music for this week. All this talk of criminal activity and Mexican cartels. Here's the theme music. I think this is fitting, huh? Here's the theme music. The theme music is you made an offer they couldn't refuse, and now they're on their way to Colombia to seal the deal. I mean, that's what I kind of get out of that. I think it fits. I think it fits. Made him an offer he couldn't refuse. All right, let's see what kind of comments we had during the week. Let's wrap up this foolishness, huh? All right, just a couple comments during the week, just a couple comments to get to, but I like to, shout out each and every single individual who gave my channel the time of day to stop by, even if it's just to say hi and see what they had to say. And this one comes from Noob Sand. So last week, we live in a society. I shared his video, and this is actually from a content creator here on YouTube who is rebranding. He was talking about he's rebranding his channel to do anime reviews. He's going to be reviewing some anime. So I guess like anime movies or whatnot. So some of you weebos out there, you want to check him out. You weebos, you think you're turning Japanese, you really think so. You can go check out Noob Sand 79. He says, I love Ninja Turtles too. And thanks for showing my video. Yeah, no problem. No problem. Ninja Turtles. Now, I was saying if Ninja Turtles don't count as anime, even though they were ninjas. However, my knowledge of anime is not extensive. I definitely do not identify as weebo. Jeff Potts from Representation in Fiction this week. Representation in Fiction, we were talking about for this past week. It was a video I did on the censorship, or the revisions, I should say, of Roald Dahl's work. That was a hot topic earlier this year, if any of you were paying attention to the news. And it was an article that I read talking about sensitivity readers and what do professional sensitivity readers do exactly. And Jeff Potts chimes in, he says, sensitivity readers are the greasy, unwashed fingers of thought control. They don't tell you how you're wrong. but they tell you how you're damaging the reader by daring to write something they don't agree with. Yeah, which I have made mention in the video that it's like sterilizing someone's work. You know, it might be a hot topic later on, but we could actually go into the concept of people having third-party individuals proofread your work and make revisions. Like even on an editing standpoint, what they call developmental editors. Haha, that could be an interesting. Why did I go haha? That could be an interesting subject. What's the difference between a sensitivity reader and a developmental editor? All right, that might be a topic of contention. He says, funny, I don't see a lot of sensitivity readers digging into Stephen King's books and his often stereotypical portrayals of Christians. Odd, huh? Or how about Margaret Atwood? What about Margaret Atwood? All right, thanks, Jeff. That is the Monday Night Live for this week, ladies and gentlemen. That's the show for this week. I hope y'all had some fun. I hope y'all discovered something new. But don't fret, because guess what? I will be back here for you. Next week, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a good week. Oh, hell yeah. That's my guy. Yeehaw! We got to support. Let's buy his product. Buy.
This offended my sensibilities.